What is up, everybody, and welcome to the weekend edition of the All NBA Show, powered by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with 150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/AllNBA. I'm your host, Adam Mares, and I'm joined by our guy on the inside from the Substack, the Stein line, as well as the DLLS Mavs podcast. It's Marc Stein. Marc, how you doing today?
I am all right, sir. I'm a little confused. I thought you were going to be in studio. I have no idea. Where are you? I have never seen this location you're broadcasting from.
I'm at DNVR headquarters, but we have Broncos going right now. We have Avs going right now. Nuggets up in 30 minutes. So I'm in my office. This is actually my office at ALLCITY headquarters, believe it or not. Isn't it lovely?
Is that a chalkboard behind you like you're going to give us a lecture, a professorial lecture?
This is exactly right, man. Sometimes I'll diagram up the play. No, not really. I'm just in my office, but yeah, lots of stuff going on a busy Sunday, including this show. You know, as we do every single time we have Marc Stein on, Legs and I throughout the week, me and Tim, we'll break down some games. We'll talk about all the latest news and notes, but I'm always curious what the conversation is behind the scenes amongst league insiders, what teams are saying. And so I'll start it as I always do by asking you, what are people around the NBA talking about this week?
Well, look, the reality is I think pretty much every conversation starts with Giannis Antetokounmpo at this point, which, look, Saturday was Giannis's birthday. He turned 31. On Friday night on the NBA on Prime on Amazon, my good friend Chris Haynes spoke to Giannis, relayed a comment from Giannis where Giannis insisted he is looking to smash through the wall as opposed to pushing for a trade. Doc Rivers adamantly insisted to the media, no matter how many you guys report this, how many times you guys report this and talk about this, he said Giannis has never requested a trade. I cannot be more clear about that. So there's a lot of pushback coming from Milwaukee on any notion that anything has changed. And yet, I would say from the other 29 teams, you got 29 teams that are watching this intently. Giannis's future looms over the whole league. That is just the reality. And we don't even know when we'll see him play again because he now has this calf injury that Doc Rivers said is most likely going to sideline him for a month. So a ton happening here with the Bucks, but then also maybe nothing has changed either. It's a very bizarre situation. But again, trade season is about to start. December 15th is basically a week away.
Right.
December 15th is when the majority of the free agents from this past summer become trade eligible. And so as trade season draws close, everyone is talking about Giannis, even though, again, I want to underline this. The Bucks continue to tell teams he's not available. We don't want your trade pitches. So it's this weird deal where the Bucks keep shouting into the wind, listen to us. We don't want to talk trades with you about Giannis Antetokounmpo, and the rest of the league just ignores it and obsesses about Giannis Antetokounmpo.
So I'm sensitive to this because there's always speculation in the media about star players in small markets. Are they going to be happy there? It's fun to talk about trades and you get all of this. Giannis has been going through this for multiple years now, where there have been rumors about how long is he there for? What does this comment mean? What does that comment mean? And I think some of it, he has welcomed. He's had comments that I think he knew would kind of stir up a little bit of doubt about his longevity in Milwaukee. So I don't know. Do you feel this is a thing of there's so much smoke here over the last few years that it feels like there must be fire? Or are you more sensitive to the idea and the position that Milwaukee takes, which is, hey, this is just a made-up report. There's nothing concrete or on the record about him wanting out.
No, look, I think you hit on a lot of important stuff there. I'm a basketball romantic, as you know. I would like to see Giannis Antetokounmpo spend his whole career in Milwaukee.
Me too. This is my default setting.
I'm not rooting for a trade, but the reality is, and I remember last season at about the same time, maybe even earlier, I wrote a long piece comparing Giannis to Jokic, and fair or not, there is a difference here. Jokic never says these kind of things.
Right.
A lot of the league's encouragement that there will eventually be a trade sweepstakes for Giannis Antetokounmpo. The belief in these 29 other front offices that we're eventually going to get there, a lot of it stems from the years ago interview that Giannis gave the New York Times, where he said, I might not be in Milwaukee for my whole career, something to that effect. I'm not quoting it exactly, but he did say it. He basically acknowledged then that he might not be a Buck for life. And as recently as Media Day, Giannis spoke at length about in the summertime, I do give in to temptation and think about these other scenarios. Giannis
Right.
himself said that. That's all 29 other front offices need to hear to think that at some point they're going to have a chance. Now, whether you believe it or not, what is the Jokic comment? The only Jokic comment about his future that I can remember in recent months was, I think, also Media Day.
Yep.
And Jokic said, I will be a Nugget for I plan to be a
My
I plan to
plan.
be a
Yep.
Nugget. I plan to be a Nugget for life. Now, whether that is his plan or not, only he knows. But when you
Sure.
say it like that, you generally shut down the noise or a good bit of the noise. But again, what stoked it up this week? When ESPN reports that player and agent have reopened discussions with the franchise about his future, that's inevitably going to lead to this kind of discourse and dialogue. I mean, this is not just some, flimsy suggestion, on a YouTube show somewhere. This is, this was a report from, a pretty prominent network covering the league that
Right.
these conversations have started again. The Bucks say they haven't. Doc Rivers said there have been no conversations to this effect. But the reality, I guess, from my seat as someone who covers trade machinations for a living, the other 29 teams believe there's something in the ether, and they're trying to get positioned for that day that they believe is going to come, that the Bucks will say, okay, go ahead, hit us with what you got. But to this point, I want to say it again. The Bucks continue to say, we are not trading this guy. We don't want to hear your pitches. And, we'll see if that holds. Again, December 15th is just now arriving. The trade deadline is February 5th. We basically are a little less than 2 months away from the trade deadline. So this will not be the only weekend edition of the All NBA show that you asked me about Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Indeed, it will not. But the other thing, the last thing you didn't mention in all of this is that the Milwaukee Bucks have lost 8 of their last 10 games. They're in a free fall right now. They are 10-15 outside of the play-in, 5 games away from the playoffs, which is the big number. Because even if you get to the play-in, you slog through the whole year just to put yourself into those extra games. So I have to imagine that's another part of it is Giannis is out for a little while. They can't seem to win without him. And now you might be looking at him returning to a team that is in the lottery and having to claw their way up just to the 10 seed.
No question. They're 1-7 without him entering Sunday's play. They're 9-8 with him. And in those 17 games, Giannis was scoring more than 38% of Milwaukee's points, which is number one in the league. They rely on him to an even greater extent than the team in your neighborhood relies on Jokic for just pure offense. And again, another reason why this conversation keeps coming up, it is Giannis who has said over and over and over again publicly, all that matters to him is winning another championship. He doesn't want to just settle for one. He wants to be an all-time great. Again, maybe it's not fair that I keep bringing up Jokic, but there are only a few players in the world that you can compare Giannis to. I mean, you got to look at him
True.
through the prism of, it's Luka, SGA, Jokic, and Giannis. That's the 4 best players in the world. So I think the comparisons are inevitable. And I remember it was last season that Jokic told my former ESPN teammate Ramona Shelburne, we've basically saying we won one, and sometimes you got to be happy with what you've got. That's not the kind of stuff we hear coming out of Milwaukee. And so again, blame the media all you want. You could say this is all media generated, whatever, but the teams in the league are not acting upon the media discourse. They're not saying, you know what, we better get our trade offers ready because all these podcasts are talking about Giannis Antetokounmpo. They are reading the tea leaves that are coming from the actual situation, and that's how they are. That's what they're basing their planning on. So that's where
Well,
it
let me
is.
ask you another big headline story from this week, and that is that Chris Paul, the legendary Clippers player who returned for his farewell tour, has been thrown out of the airplane and kicked off the team. We know he is a difficult personality. He has a certain style of leadership that can wear on people. But this, it seems from the reporting, wore on people in 2 months. I mean, it's early in the season to be making a decision like this. What can you tell us about this scenario?
Yeah, look, I mean, the timing is certainly a shock, but I mean, for the Clippers, it's just been one thing after a number since September, one thing after another, not a number. Let me try to speak English. One thing after another since September. And look, they're off to such a bad start. And that's, I think, where all this really leads us. Like all week long, the ins and outs of Chris Paul and this squabble with Jeff Van Gundy and this clash with all of the we can go over all the minutia, but I think where this really stems is this was a Clipper team that thought that they were going to be not far, that they were going to be a 50-win team that could make some noise in the West. That was the expectation for the Clippers. So many people, this is one of the great misreads of the early season. So many pundits, and I'd have to throw myself in there, thought the Clippers had a really good summer. Yeah, they lost Norm Powell, but they turned Norm Powell into four guys who could play. Bradley Beal and Brooke Lopez and Chris Paul and John Collins, and they're deeper, and they've got Kawhi back, and Harden just moved to number 10 on the all-time scoring list. An incredible achievement that is barely being discussed because there's so much chaos, and all that chaos, what it really is tied to is the Clippers pick is totally unprotected going to Oklahoma City. And as of now, they are in the lottery. It doesn't look like they're getting out of lottery range anytime soon. And it all kind of feeds into just an absolutely the Thunder are 22-1, and depending on how the chips fall, could come away with the first round pick belonging to Utah, Philly, and the Clippers, all of which could end up in various stages of the lottery.
It's crazy, man.
And it is demoralizing, man. It's demoralizing. You see it. I'm sure you and Legs have talked about this. It's demoralizing to play the Thunder. Like they literally take the will and the belief away from teams in real time. But then just to think that are they going to have 3 lottery picks in June? Is that even allowed? Like, I mean, what is the rest of the league supposed to do here? And I've said this too. I can't remember if we've had a chance to get into this. In my career, which is now knock on wood, I'm literally knocking on wood as we speak. This is my 33rd season. I've been blessed to do this for a long, long time. One of the greatest things I've ever covered, and one of the coolest things, and something that I feel like can never be replicated. I covered a lot of that 24-0 Warriors start, and being in Milwaukee when the Bucks ended that thing and inflicted Golden State's first loss, like again, 24-0, 24-1. I'm not sure I will ever get to cover something like that from close range for the rest of my life. But here the Thunder are at 22-1. Okay, they lost their 9th game, but like what they are doing to mow through this league when they have not been at full strength yet for a minute in this season. And that's really the big problem. That's where a lot of this angst is coming from, because teams are sitting there racking their brains saying, how do we close the gap on these guys? What do we do if they repeat as champions in June and then get 3 lottery picks?
I mean,
It is a
yeah,
problem.
we talked about it on the show twice this week, and just about how good they look and how much it looks overwhelming. Maybe there's less parity than we thought because there is one juggernaut. But tonight they are playing in Utah. They're going to be without Shea, Lou Dort, Isaiah Joe, Hartenstein, and Alex Caruso. They're favored by 10.5. Yeah, no other team can be missing 5 of their most important players on the road and still be favored by double digits. That just shows you what a well-oiled machine they are.
I mean,
Uh,
all they've done since losing that game to Portland is win 14 in a row with an average victory margin of 18 plus. And yeah, I mean, in our lifetimes in the NBA, we have only seen 4 teams start 22-1. You had the 69-70 Knicks, won it all. You had the 93-94 Rockets, won it all. And you had the Warriors, who won 73 and were up 3-1 in the finals. And it took the greatest finals comeback from Cleveland that we've ever seen to deny that team from winning it all. And you have to ask the question, like, who is going to beat the Thunder? Who?
I
And
know.
depressingly so, as December 15th approaches, we don't have a lot of good answers.
Another thing that's coming up this week, this is NBA Cup week, and we're going to get some Cup games here. The quarterfinals, which are Tuesday and Wednesday. Legs and I are going to be breaking this down. Is there a lot of conversation? This is the third Cup. Is there any momentum for this? Are people starting to talk about it differently than in years past? And what's the excitement level around the league?
Look, I think when we do get to the knockout stage, that it does take. Now is when it really feels like a tournament. My personal quarrel with it has always been I just don't love regular season games counting twice and that being their regular season games and a tournament game. Now we're in the real knockout stage. But look, Orlando, before, a couple hours before we got together to tape this, it looks like, they lost Franz Wagner today in New York. We don't know, as we're taping this, we don't know the severity of that injury. But, Orlando, hugely excited to play Miami in a Florida derby in the quarterfinals. For the Magic, who have always been in the Heat's shadow in Florida, for the Magic to host that game. They just played Friday night. I talked to some people who were there who said it was absolutely raucous, like a really intense regular season environment. But now Orlando's one of those 10 teams on the NBA map that's never won an NBA championship. So winning an NBA Cup would be significant for the Magic. Obviously, if they have to play without Wagner, that's going to be a huge miss for them, because they went 7-3 while Paolo Banchero was out, and Wagner was the best. I mean, he was playing fantastic. He's playing all-star level. So look, I do think there is a heightened awareness and excitement as we move into the quarterfinals. You got Orlando hosting Miami. You've got Toronto hosting the Knicks. Toronto, nobody was expecting anything really out of them this season. They've been a great story. They've really suffered without RJ Barrett. They lost 4 of their first 7 without RJ Barrett. Before Barrett's injury, they were scoring better than 120 a game, and they've really struggled offensively without him. So we'll see. This is a huge opportunity for Toronto to be on the national stage. Can they beat the Knicks and advance to Vegas? And then you got the games in the West.
These are the ones.
Lakers hosting the Spurs. Now, I can't imagine Victor Wembanyama is going to be ready to play by Wednesday. He's been out, but I think they started 7
well.
they've started 7-3 in their first 10 games without Wemby this season.
Yeah.
Fox is back and doing a lot of damage. And then the Thunder play the Suns, and look, the Thunder lost the NBA Cup last year. So they have a lot of motivation to do something here and win something that they, that is something they don't have on their resume yet, an NBA Cup title. But look, I think we can't talk about this. We can't talk about the NBA Cup without talking about the other 22 teams that didn't make the quarterfinals and that are now entering this 2 games in 7, 8, 9 days stretch.
It's crazy, man.
It's a break that so many teams are looking forward to, because the start of the schedule is so front loaded. Like, I can just tell you where I live in Dallas. Last night was the Mavs' 6th back-to-back already. So, and there are a lot of teams in that have had that, because the first 6 weeks of the schedule get so overloaded to accommodate the quarterfinals of the NBA Cup and then figuring out the 2 missing games for the other 22 teams. So there is a lot going on and a lot of discussion. And I'll be, if Adam Silver does a press conference at the NBA Cup, which I can't remember for sure, but I think he would. I would imagine that question is going to come up. What are you hearing? What kind of complaints, frankly, are you hearing from other teams about the schedule? Because it is a burden on teams early.
Well, let's take a quick break here, Mark. On the other side, I want to wrap up by asking you about the team you cover most closely, which is the Dallas Mavericks, who I think are actually good. I'm going to ask you that on the other side here in just a moment. But first, NBA is in full swing. FanDuel is your home for live betting, so even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine live bets into same-game parlays for a shot at a bigger payout. However you want to play, now is the perfect time to join because FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So just visit FanDuel.com/AllNBA to sign up today. Play your game with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Must be 21 or older and present in select states. For Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.
What kind of dreams did you have when you were a kid? What did you want to be when you grew up? I'll tell you, for me, I never wanted to have a boss. I have an entrepreneurial spirit. And even now, I don't have a boss. I get to do what I want. And that is thanks in large part because of Shopify. It's the e-commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US. Shopify even powers the ALLCITY merch store where you can go and buy some of the greatest merch from Chicago, Denver, Phoenix, Dallas, and Philadelphia. We have great specials going on for the holiday season. But we use Shopify for all of that. It has you covered from website creation, product descriptions, email and social media marketing, and so much more. They also have AI tools designed to help you maximize sales. So if you're ready to sell, if you're like me and have an entrepreneurial spirit, you're ready for Shopify. Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial. That's $1 per month. And start selling today at shopify.com/allcity. That's shopify.com/allcity. All right, back here, final segment of our weekend edition of the All NBA show. And Mark, the last one before we get out of here. I just think your Dallas Mavericks are good. They obviously have had their ups and downs, but the emergence of Ryan Nembhard has given them a crucial missing piece in point guard play. Now you have Cooper Flagg, who looks like the prospect we all thought he was when he was the unanimous number one pick. So I'll ask you, are the Dallas Mavericks sneaky good?
It's as if you were eavesdropping on a conversation I was having with a trusted source last night as I was exiting the building, not realizing, by the way, that I left the base of my microphone somewhere in the arena, and I'm completely rattled today because all I can think about is how am I going to get that thing back? God, I'm old and an idiot. But anyway, that's a separate discussion. Yeah, you know what it is too? The bottom of the West. We have already discussed the Clippers, but, we've seen, the Grizzlies have played better of late, but the Kings are still a mess. The Pelicans, oh my goodness. Even after a coaching change, I think they've won one game since the coaching change. Like the bottom of the West is so much weaker than anticipated that in Dallas, there's in the wake of as they were assembling this 5-15 start, there's been so much discussion in Dallas and on all of our DLS shows that 2026 is the only year between now and 2031 that the Mavs control their first. So they've got to tank. They've got to lose. They've got to be in the lottery. They've got to get one more good pick to get a good player on Cooper Flagg's timeline. But you might be exactly right. The way they look now, Nembhard has been unbelievable.
He's a good player.
Last 3 games, 34-4 assist to turnover ratio. He's only been a starter for 5 games. You can't get carried away and assume that he's going to stay at this level. But Actually, he's been a starter for 6 games, and he has been tremendous. Just gets the team organized, never turns it over, makes his shots. He's been on fire from 3. Like, obviously, all the knocks against him coming out of college was, size. He's going to be a defensive liability. He's just playing so well as a point guard, as an organizer, that none of that has mattered. Anthony Davis throw out one game against Oklahoma City that was a nightmare for him, but he bounced back in a big way Saturday night against Houston. So you've got AD at the 5, and there's been since he's become a Maverick, Mavs fans have wanted to see him at the 5 as opposed to playing the 4 next to Lively or Gafford, both of whom are out right now. So AD is playing the 5, looks tremendous at the 5. And really, when you look at it, it's not like the Mavs are posting him up and throwing it to him and expecting to bang down low like an old school 5. He's still operating at the elbows, and like he's always looked good as a 5. But like, you got him at the 5, Cooper Flagg at the 4, a traditional point guard, and you're right, they look so much more functional. And you look at it, that's my long-winded way of agreeing with you and saying, how is this team going to end up in the lottery, especially when Kyrie Irving comes back in 2026? I mean, yeah, you're right.
They might be good. They're at 16 losses, and unlike we were talking with Milwaukee, maybe Dallas is excited to be in the play-in. They climbed to that. You get Kyrie Irving back, and all of a sudden you're this X factor out west that nobody wants to play. It's possible, but they're fun to watch. And so from a team that was as low as any team in the NBA through the first 7-8 games of the year, they've been an exciting story over the last 5 games, and we'll have to continue watching it. But one guy I know will continue watching it, Marc Stein, DLLS Mavericks. You can catch him over there giving all the inside scoop and his own analysis on the team, as well as read him at the Stein lines. Thanks so much, Marc.
Root for me to find that microphone base, please. Root for me.
Hey, good luck on that search. Everybody, we'll see you tomorrow with Tim Legler.
We all city like the mayor.